Hi everyone, thanks for joining the webinar today. I will just go through the agenda of what I'm going to talk about. So just a brief introduction on Brexit and the Northern Ireland Protocol, the phase-in period for 2021 and how that impacts on UKMAs. Rather than going too much into the guidance, as has been mentioned, it is ever-changing. I will go through some of our experiences to date that we've had with clients and how we're dealing with it. And I think that I'll also provide some useful links of where to find guidance and updates. And I think there'll be quite a few questions at the end, so we'll allow enough time to go through any questions that everybody has. So I think in preparation for Brexit, a lot of people had prepared what they could in advance, assessing any impact that might have on their products in the UK and in the EU. Things like making sure that your MA holder entity is in the EU, QP release site, testing sites, PV activities. And I think the option that a lot of companies took was to make sure that for EU markets that was located in the EU location. But I think any companies that maybe had activities happening in the UK for the UK, a lot of that tended to stay where it is. And I think it was not until more recently the full impact of the Northern Ireland Protocol started to become more evident. Like guidance has only really been issued kind of in late December and early January this year. And it has kind of resulted in a misalignment of requirements between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I think that's something to make clear throughout this presentation is the difference when I say the UK versus Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So the UK includes all countries, but Great Britain is just England, Scotland and Wales, and Northern Ireland separate. I think that's something that maybe the Irish and the UK people on the line will be a bit more familiar with than maybe some of the other people on the line. But just I have differentiated that throughout the presentation because it is now becoming more and more important because of this Northern Ireland Protocol. So the protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland requires custom and regulatory alignment between the EU and Northern Ireland only, and not between the EU and Great Britain. The key impacts on medicines where there is misalignment between requirements is that Northern Ireland must continue to uphold things like the EU Falsified Medicines Directive. Northern Ireland must still have a QP release located in the EU. Adverse events for Northern Ireland must be reported through EU systems and the Article 57 database for pharmacovigilance. The marketing authorisation holder must be in the EU, and that can also be Northern Ireland as part of the EU, and that Great Britain is not required to uphold a lot of these requirements. They will allow QP release in the EU and MA holder entities to be in the EU, but they don't have to be. So for Great Britain, a lot of these activities can continue to happen in the UK. And one of the bigger things then as well is that for Great Britain, adverse events can no longer be reported through EU systems, so that they have to be reported directly to the MHRA through MHRA databases. So a phase-in period of 1 year has been agreed, so that's for the period of 2021, and will allow for continued supply of UK medicines into Northern Ireland. It also allows for supply of other dependent markets such as Ireland and Malta, without the need for additional customs checks, QC testing or QP release. And this is until the end of December this year. So any UK product that was QP released and placed on the market prior to Brexit, so prior to the end of 2020, can still continue to be supplied to Northern Ireland. What is important is the placed on the market, because I think there's been some questions around this, is that it has to be available for sale. So a transaction should have occurred, and that means that it is placed on the market. So it's already been QP released and has been sold to somebody like a distributor or have something in writing that someone is going to purchase the product, and that can continue to be sold on the market in Northern Ireland. Then anything QP released this year in 2021, it can again be continued to be supplied to the UK and Northern Ireland, even if it is QP released in the UK. So it's for now, business as usual, that maybe a shared UK pack can be released by a UK QP and sold on into Northern Ireland, and it's not considered as importation. But from the 31st of December 2021, all products placed on the market in Northern Ireland must be QP released in the EU and be shipped directly from the EU to Northern Ireland to avoid being considered as an importation. So it's very important that not only maybe you have a QP release site in the EU, but also your supply chain needs to be considered, that if product enters Great Britain on the way to Northern Ireland, that will be considered an importation. So it is important to consider the supply chain as well as maybe what's registered in your dossier as a release site or a testing site. This phase-in period very clearly applies to release and supply activities. What's not as clear is if it also applies to other requirements needed for Northern Ireland, like the need for an EU MA holder. There is EMA guidance, obviously, is applicable to Northern Ireland as with all EU guidances, but there has not been clear communication of a deadline as to when some of these activities need to be completed by. There was some guidance issued towards the end of last year that did say things like PV activities and updating the database. So updating the Article 57 database to change the UK to UK Northern Ireland. There was a deadline for that of the 31st of January, but you were actually able to do that, still keeping a UK MA holder for Northern Ireland. So there hasn't been a deadline given for the other requirements yet. So the impact that we've seen on UKMAs in particular, I think for centrally authorised products, it's a little bit clearer in that Northern Ireland automatically will remain within the EU procedure. It will be authorised to have an EU MA holder and release site QPPV, and a separate GB licence is then issued unless the authorisation holder opted out. I think what's more complicated are for things like MRPs and DCPs or nationally authorised products, where there is a UK national MA, it's not as clear. The MHRA have given options as to keeping a combined UK MA as it is with the existing PL number, or the option to split it so that you will have a PLNI and a PLGB, so two separate numbers and two separate MAs for each market. Because of the change, the phase-out period ending at the end of 2021, it may not be possible to maintain a UK MA because of different, particularly the MA holding entities, and that ongoing activity as well that may be different between the EU and the UK. It might mean that you need to split these things earlier than this deadline of the 31st of December. I'll get into a bit more detail later on in the slides about kind of the practicalities of why you would want to split and not split. But things like joint packs may still be possible between Great Britain and Northern Ireland if the product is released in the EU and follows EU requirements for falsified medicines. But the bigger issues will be if you have a product released in the UK for the UK market, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to maintain a joint pack with Northern Ireland while doing this, because there will be a lot of supply restrictions and importation issues. So I'd like to go through some of our experiences that we've had over the past maybe 6 months in dealing with different clients. So as I said, it is very specific on the supply chain of the product. So what we try to do is assess clients' needs case by case. We do go into the detail of figuring out what exactly is registered, who is the MA holding entity, where does each step of the supply chain from manufacture, release, and physical distribution sometimes can come into it as well. So we would assess all that and give guidance based on that of where to move forward. What the MHRA have also suggested is that individual queries are emailed to them for advice for specific situations. What we found is that activities for EU markets, including Northern Ireland, so that must occur in the EU, but for Great Britain, the MHRA will continue to accept the EU, Great Britain and other countries. So what's happening is the MHRA are being quite a bit more flexible in that, yes, activities can continue to happen in the UK, but they can also happen in the EU. But what's happening is the EU is maybe not accepting activities that happen in the UK. So that's where the difficulties lie. Products with manufacture, testing, release in the UK will be most impacted, but maybe companies that are more EU focused and have more activities carried out in the EU, they may not be as impacted by the Northern Ireland Protocol. So in regards to requesting agency advice, for some of the more complex supply chains with activities spread between the UK and the EU, we did seek advice from both the MHRA and our reference member state within the DCP on how best to proceed after Brexit, in particular in relation to Northern Ireland and the UK, and whether or not we needed to either split Northern Ireland and the UK and Great Britain out of the DCP, or whether we could maintain it together. So we did receive immediate confirmation from the MHRA that Northern Ireland could continue to be supplied UK product throughout 2021. And I think, again, this is being quite clear in the guidance that the MHRA have issued. We did ask questions then about how we would go about splitting the UKMA and potentially transferring the Northern Ireland MA into an EU entity, and how best to manage this through ECTD. These questions have still not been answered, and they would have been asked back in early December. We did get a response from the EU reference member state towards the end of January that basically the ongoing activity for the DCP would be applicable for Northern Ireland, but they did again highlight that Northern Ireland should have an EU MA holder, again without giving any sort of deadline as to when this needs to happen. We were able to update, obviously, the Article 57 database to select UK Northern Ireland, and you were able to do this keeping this UK MA holder. So it is still possible to keep your UK MA holder for Northern Ireland at the moment through this transition period. I did get, as we said, this is an ever-changing topic. We did get some more advice just in the last day from the MHRA in relation to this sort of thing. And what they have said is that there is still a lot of negotiation ongoing between the UK government and the EU government, and that a lot of these activities are not going to be confirmed until those negotiations are complete. And you may be aware that the MHRA had a scheduled webinar similar to this in February, and it was cancelled for this reason, is that these things might change. So when we were asking advice about how to split the UKMA, we have been told that we cannot submit it, we cannot split it at the moment, and that we have to wait until there is more guidance given and that these negotiations have been completed. So we have requested to split PL numbers between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. This was done for many reasons, but mainly to do with differences in MA holding requirements and also release activities. So rather than just requesting through the MHRA portal to issue new PL numbers, we did email and request that the existing PL numbers be split between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. Interestingly enough, we did receive back these PL numbers. So we did get issued PLNI numbers and PLGB numbers. We tried to submit applications, so because we have to split the ECTD between the DCP and now a national Great Britain authorisation, we tried to submit a baseline dossier to the MHRA, and it was not accepted. It was not validated because the PLGB numbers that we used were not associated with an approved MA. So although they did issue us with these numbers, they haven't actually updated their systems to link them to the product that's authorised. We have been able to then resubmit these baselines and also responses to questions for Northern Ireland through the DCP using the existing UK PL numbers, and they have been accepted. The MHRA did advise us basically not to split the PL numbers while there was activity ongoing. So that was advice that we got last month, maybe January, early February. But then, as I said, today we've now been told that the MHRA is not in a position to split PL numbers where the UK MAH is a UK entity. So they have confirmed to us that this is affecting quite a lot of MA holders. It's not just a situation that we've come across. And that I think the issue is that if you have a UK marketing authorisation and it's issued to a UK entity, they cannot split Northern Ireland off while it has a UK MA holder. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation in that you can't transfer your Northern Ireland MA entity until the PLs are split, but you also can't split the PLs if you've got a UK MA holding entity. What is confirmed though is that any approvals that we get through a DCP will also be considered as approved in the UK. So although we had asked for separate UK or separate Northern Ireland and GB assessments, what they've said is that anything that we submit to the DCP will still be considered as approved for the entire UK. And this is in line with the guidance that they issued originally back in December, in that if you choose to keep a UK only MA that covers all markets, that it will just be kind of considered as the DCP. There's not a separate submission required to GB. But I suppose what was strange in this case is that we asked them to be split and they cannot be at this time. So it is a waiting game to see when the negotiations will be complete and what comes out of that as to whether or not we will be able to split Northern Ireland from Great Britain, or if there's a need to do that in the future. We have also had a situation where we have had a change that we needed to submit that was applicable to the EU only. So again, we wanted to submit it in a DCP, but not submit it to Great Britain. So again, we had to submit this based on existing UK PL numbers. It was validated, and the validations declare that the change is for the UK, even though our cover letters clearly stated that this change is only applicable to Northern Ireland and not Great Britain. So it is unclear if this change is going to be considered as registered for Northern Ireland or also Great Britain. As I said, we have split the ECTD, so we do have separate UUIDs now for our DCP and for Great Britain's, and the Great Britain CTD sequences have not been updated to reflect this change. So I think it is becoming a little bit of an issue in that the systems in the MHRA aren't really set up quite yet to facilitate splitting Northern Ireland away from Great Britain. Similarly then, for marketing authorisation transfers, we've been trying to look into how we can transfer the Northern Ireland only MA to an EU entity. So firstly, we cannot do it until we've split the UK MA, and we'll have to wait for obviously ongoing activity to be closed out, but this is standard enough for an MA transfer. Usually you would wait until all ongoing activity has ceased. The MHRA guidance on the change of ownership is still referencing submission via CESP as opposed to the MHRA portal, and we've seen that updated fees don't actually reflect a split between Northern Ireland and GB, so there is still just one set of fees. So again, it's unclear if you've got a change that's only going to impact Northern Ireland, do you still have to pay the full fee amount? There's also no difference in any sort of requirements regarding proof of establishment of an EU MH rather than a UK MAH. I suppose just to be clear that the UK and Great Britain will still accept an MA holding entity that's in the EU, but that may not always be an option for a lot of companies. I think as a consultant, we may get a lot of requirements or a lot of questions in from smaller companies looking for support, and a lot of these companies, maybe they don't have an option of moving their UK product to an EU MAH entity. Once there is the option to split PL numbers, you will be allowed to still sell the existing packs for 6 months. So that's the standard implementation period. And then after that 6 months, you would have to implement your new PLGB numbers or PLNI numbers. And it's just to keep in mind that that 6-month implementation period may be prior to the end of this phase-in period. So although we can continue to supply stock until the end of 2021, if you do change something like your MA number or MA holder, that will still need to be implemented within your 6-month timeframe. And I suppose joint packs between Northern Ireland and the UK will likely only be possible if you're going to have an EU QP release site and if the falsified medicine direction is being followed. I think what a lot of people are looking into, that possibly it might be better for Northern Ireland to share a pack with the Republic of Ireland or maybe another EU market. There can be a lot of costs involved in things like the falsified medicines directive, serialization and decommissioning serialized packs, and also EU QP release. So I think some companies are still choosing to keep some of the UK activities in the UK market. But I suppose it depends on the product and it depends on what countries are being used. And again, as I said, neither the MHRA or the EU have confirmed a deadline as to when the MA transfer is needed for Northern Ireland. We have suggested in email communication that we will have it done before this phase-in period is complete, so before the end of December. And we've had no objections to that. But to be honest, it has been quite difficult to get answers from agencies around these things. But that's what we are aiming towards anyway, is that if we need to transfer this Northern Ireland MA holding entity, that we will have it done before the end of 2021. As I mentioned, the physical route of supply can also be quite important, not just what's registered in the dossier. And we've had quite a few queries from clients about how to supply Northern Ireland through the UK. So throughout 2021, this will be acceptable and the product won't be considered as an import. So any stock that's on the UK market at the moment can continue to be supplied to Northern Ireland. But after 2021, Northern Ireland should be supplied via the EU. So if a UK pack will go to Northern Ireland and Great Britain, it meets the Falsified Medicines Directive and is QP released in the EU, Northern Ireland stock should be shipped directly to Northern Ireland and Great Britain stock should be shipped directly to Great Britain. Importation issues will be likely if the entire shipment goes to Great Britain and then maybe Northern Ireland stock is filtered off at a later date. So rather than shipping an entire batch to the UK and just giving a small portion of that to Northern Ireland, I think you probably need to know in advance what portion of that stock is to go to Northern Ireland and what stock is to go to Great Britain. If Northern Ireland will have a dedicated pack or share with another EU country rather than the UK, it won't be considered as an importation. So once everything stays within the EU and goes directly to Northern Ireland, there'll be no importation issues. So again, as I said, in general, it seems that the EU are being stricter on any parts of the supply chain being carried out on the UK. And this includes things like distribution and also like secondary packaging activities. We have had some difficulties with more, I suppose, the more Brexit related issues than Northern Ireland Protocol, but that in general, we found that the EU have been a lot stricter on these sorts of things, including things like the site of importation, which maybe in the past would not have been declared explicitly in the dossier, that when the UK is involved in the supply chain, we are now being actively asked to add this sort of information and also to actively remove UK operations from the dossier that maybe are not going to happen anymore. So in the situation where you maybe historically had a UK release site and you've now replaced it with an EU release site, so we're now being asked to actively remove the UK from the dossier. So that's just a summary of some of the experience we've had over the last couple of months. As I said, it's ever changing. We have some links up here of where you can find some information, but it is always good to keep an eye on, in particular, the MHRA websites. They have some topics that they update quite regularly. As I said, I think the 23rd of February was one of the most recently issued guidance documents relating to Northern Ireland. So it is a good idea before you make any major decisions on regulatory activity just to keep an eye on the updated documents. And also, as I said, there are ongoing negotiations that could change any of this. So it really is a good idea to maybe set up alerts or to keep an eye actively on the MHRA websites and the EU websites for any new guidance that gets issued. There's also a list up there on the link of approved countries. That is the list of countries that the UK will allow QP release from. So, as I said, the EU are quite strict in that obviously QP release activities need to happen in the EU, but the UK will allow for QP release in the UK, in the EU, and also in quite a long list of other countries globally that would have similar standards. So that link is available for you up there as well. So thank you guys for your time, and we're going to open up to some questions.